Tonight, we're going to talk about God being omnipresent. It's a cool word. It's a little theology, but I won't spend a lot of time on it, on the word omnipresent. I'll tell you about it in just a second. But I want y'all to think about this while we're doing this whole part of the psalm tonight. This is written, I think it was written by King David. And so it was written like, I don't know, a few hundred years, a couple thousand years before Jesus ever came. But when I read this part of the Psalms, I find Jesus at the end of the day. And he's really not even that hard to find. You just read it and pay attention to it. If you're in Psalm 139, look at verses 7 through 12. Let's just go ahead and jump right into Scripture. A lot of us will be talking about God being everywhere, and we'll talk about that and then move on. In Psalm 139, starting in verse 7. I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the place of the dead, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me and your strength will support me. I can ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night, but even in darkness I cannot hide from you. To you the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are both alike to you. So, God is everywhere. I live, I die, I hide, He's still there. Just look at verse 7 and 8 real quick. It says, I can never escape from your spirit. Omnipresent is defined in the Bible. Defined in the dictionary. It's not defined in the Bible. I don't think the word's in the Bible. But we use it to describe how God is everywhere. And what it means is to be present everywhere at the same time. Think about that for a second. To be present everywhere at the same time. That is the living God. He is all around you right now, and He's all around everyone else in the whole world. That is part of God's incredible power. As part of His omnipotence, how He's all-powerful, that He is everywhere all at one time. That's amazing. And then you get into a lot of questions about where is He exactly, but everywhere is the answer we find in verse 7 and 8. No matter how much I try to get away from God, and that's what I want you to learn tonight, is that you can't really get away from God. We'll find out why that's important in a little bit. Like I talk to you all the time about judgment and how you're going to wind up in front of Him. But the truth is, even in this instant, you can't get away from God. You might try to get away from God. You might try to run from God, but you can't. He is present even if you were to die. That's the part that's crazy to me. It says He's in heaven, and that's often how we think of God. He's up there, and He's away from us. And then it says, even if you go to the grave, God is there. And then it says that everywhere on earth, when I'm on, let's see. Yeah, I can never get away from your presence, and that's even now, right now in this place. Before I go to heaven, before I die, any of those times, I still can't get away from God. But what do we learn about omnipresent God? The most comforting thing in this whole psalm to me is that He's there regardless. Sometimes I act right, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm good, and sometimes I'm bad. And sometimes around me, life is just bad, and I have nothing to do with it. But the good news in the Scripture is, no matter how hard I try, I can't get away from God. Let's read verse 9 and 10 and see why that's a good thing. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me, and your strength will support me. I can ask the darkness to hide me, and the light around me. Oh, I skipped ahead. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to do. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest ocean, even there your hand will guide me, and your strength support me. I'm going to stop right there. I'm not supposed to go into the darkness yet. I looked at those two verses. I am not supposed to go into the darkness. That was funny, wasn't it? I didn't mean for it to happen like that. I look at the first verse. If I ride the wings of the morning and dwell by the farthest ocean, that just sounds like fun to me. I don't really know what that means. Maybe it didn't come into English well from whatever King David was talking about, but I read verse 9 like that is when I am on a roll, and I am doing what I'm supposed to do, and I feel His presence urging me on in the work for His kingdom. Or just like whenever I make a good grade on a test. I don't know how to explain what that means, but I feel like if I'm riding the wings of the morning, it's like when I woke up. I remember a guy preaching one time, and he described the feeling of the Spirit of God moving with him really good. He said, when you sleep 10 hours and you wake up, and you really don't even have anything to do that day, but you slept 10 hours straight through, and it just feels good. You don't really need sleep. You're without a need at the moment for rest. That feels good. That's what I think it means to ride the wings of the morning. And so that's a good day. And on that day, I feel like the presence of God is with me. But then, if you keep reading into the darkness next. If I ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night, even your darkness I cannot hide from you. Why would I ever ask for that? There's days that I didn't just sleep 10 hours. We've got an 8-month-old baby, and I'm not even trying, my wife's in here, so I better be careful with this. I'm not even trying to act like I'm the one who usually handles that. But I don't wake up a lot of mornings going, 10 hours, wonderful sleep since last night. I feel so great this morning. A lot of mornings I kind of feel like, man, do I have to get up yet? And I don't want to. I just want to keep laying in my bed. And I think that translates well into life. Where there's some parts of my life where I'm just loving it. And I can't wait to get the next moment of that portion of my life. And there's other parts of my life that I wish I didn't even have to experience. I just wish that it would just go away. And that waking up feeling when I haven't had enough sleep and when I don't think I've got what I need, that's what life can feel like some days. And let me make this clear. I think that we can cause that in our life. I really do. I think that we can make mistakes that cause us to have long, hard days. And then other times, I think that life just brings us long, hard days. But when I read the Psalms, I find out it really doesn't matter which kind of day I'm having, if I run from God or if I chase after God. Either way, He is equally present in my life. Now, I may not sense Him, and I may not pay attention to Him, and I may not appreciate Him, but regardless of the day and the moment and what's going on and how I feel and how I act and what choices I make, it seems that God is equally present, powerful, and amazing every second of every day. I think David did a good job of explaining that in Psalm 139. I don't know a more comforting thing to say to you than to let you know that God is with you. I mean, just God is with you. And that's so cliche, I've stopped using stuff like that, tried to when I was preaching especially, but I don't know how to explain it better. I need you to think about how great God is. Especially if you're in one of those moments in your life when you are drained, when you are down. And I'm even going to say this, even if it's you who's made the choices that's caused you to feel that way. And I'm going to explain that. If you just caught yourself up in some nasty sin and you're laying in it, walling around in it, and it's killing you and eating you up and you're under conviction, or if you love in it and you're laying around in it, but you know on the inside that payday is coming, or if life has just brought you something that you had nothing to do with, I don't know of a more comforting thing to say to you than God is with you. Let me explain it as best I can. I want to talk about God's grace. How is it that God is with me everywhere, whether I choose to walk away from Him or whether I've fallen into a situation that's made me seem so distant from Him? How is it that He's still there every second of every day? Well, partly because of this nature of God that He's just everywhere. But there's a word that you need to learn, and this is where I found Jesus so easy in the Psalms. Who knows how long before Jesus was ever even born? This word is grace. It's extremely important for you to understand grace. Grace has nothing to do with you. You were born to sin. And the truth is, you fell into sin at a very young age. Me and Amy just had a conversation last night trying to decide when Gracie knows that she's doing something wrong, and she's 8 months old. And I'm telling you, we're at that point where it's kind of difficult to decide. Some people say no, but I'm telling you, you reach down and you tell her no, and she used to just go like, I'm confused. And now she looks at you. Like, she can't say anything, but you put your hand in between her and something she wants. At 8 months, she's like, I'm going to get that. You know? And you can't tell if she's right or wrong. I'm telling you, way before you even had any understanding of words, you might not have even said mom or dad. I believe you already had sin in your heart and you were working towards it because you were born into it. And the truth is, you were dead and lost and gone in that. Every one of us is really, really lost. Grace is that God made a way for you to receive salvation without you ever doing anything. You ever heard people talk about how Jesus meets us halfway? Like He came and He did the whole work, but then and I think that's really kind of a horrible analogy because it's not like halfway. He did like everything and then you just have to surrender to His Lordship. But He died on the cross for your sin, experience hell for your sake. And then if you do surrender to Him, if you do come on board with that, you and your little piece, you receive that grace. All of that arranging that was done, where Jesus came to earth, died, experienced hell and all that, did any of you have anything to do with that? Will you ever have anything to do with that? No. That is grace. That He made a way for people who were born into sin, who sinned when they were little tiny children, when they didn't even know what the word sin meant. When those people were provided salvation, that was God being with us.